They have taken untold millions that they never toiled to earn. But without our brain and muscle, not a single wheel can turn. We can break their haughty power, gain our freedom when we learn that the union makes us strong. Sisters and brothers, greetings, solidarity greetings with that stanza from our labor anthem, Solidarity Forever. To my fellow and brother and sister general officers, executive board members, all the elected national officers, union leaders and activists, all the frontline fighters, proud postal workers here tonight, our wonderful union staff, and all the family and friends. It's good to be here with you tonight as we gain from your collective life and collective strength as we embark on the challenging next 3 years. And it is good to be joined by some of the special guests tonight. Later they'll be introduced by name, so I won't do that right now. But I do want to give a special shout out to all the family members who are here, because without your support, and close friends, without your support, we're not able to do what we're able to do and what this union's able to do. And I don't know all your family members. I've met a lot of them. I don't know all your close friends. I do want to give a special shout out to my family members who are here, my lovely union activist wife and APWU union activist wife, Melissa, two of my 3 daughters who happily, at least I think it was happily, grew up singing union songs at APWU conferences. And my special guest here tonight is my best lifelong friend and mentor, Richard Koretz, who came up from North Carolina with his lovely wife, Sandra. It's great to be here with you, Brother Koretz, but it's great to be here, obviously, with all of you. Now, I had a 2.5-hour speech written. But I realized, no, this is serious business. I realized that tonight the clocks fall back, and in light of the extra hour, it's now 3.5 hours. Give me 15 or 20 minutes of your time and we'll hit the dance floor. I am deeply honored to be reelected National Union President by the members of the American Postal Workers Union. And greatly appreciate and am humbled by the overwhelming support and for the election of the entire Members Unity team. I congratulate all of the candidates who have been installed tonight. I also commend all those who stepped up and were willing to serve. And I want to give a special and deep thanks on behalf of all the membership to all the outgoing officers for their service, their dedication to the American Postal Workers Union and the labor movement. And on behalf of all of you, I know we wish them all the very best. As we assume office, we should always remember we stand on the broad and mighty shoulders of those heroes and sheroes who came before us. From miner leader Mother Jones and textile worker Crystal Lee Sutton, the real Norma Ray. From Joe Hill of the IWW to Ben Gold of the Fur and Leather Workers Union. From the Haymarket Martyrs to the Flint Sit-Downers and the San Francisco General Strikers. From Eugene Debs to A. Philip Randolph of the Sleeping Car Porters and Dolores Huerta of the Farm Workers. From Miranda Smith of the Winston-Salem Tobacco Workers to our own Mo Biller. From the Memphis Sanitation Workers. From the Memphis Sanitation Workers to the courageous postal strikers of 1970. Some known, sisters and brothers, but guess what? Mostly unknown, who took up the just fight for workers' rights and workers' freedom. The great labor leader Eugene Debs described our pioneers in this way, this quote: "The labor agitator of the early day held no office, drew no salary, saw no footlights, heard no applause, never saw the name in print, and fills an unknown grave. The labor movement is their monument. And though their name is not inscribed upon it, their soul is in it, and with it marches on forever. End of quote. That is the well from whence we spring, sisters and brothers, sustained along the way by our families, our histories, our experience, our mentors, our influences, and a passionate sense of justice. Our union election is over. The members have decisively spoken, and unity now must be the apple of our eye as we fight a hostile Congress, the corporate privatizers, Wall Street greed, and too many in postal management bent on destroying the Postal Service through piece-by-piece privatization and degrading of mail service. Our election results are a strong mandate to continue the union path of standing up and fighting back, increasing rank-and-file participation and activism, creating alliances to save our public postal service, and promoting solidarity with all workers. My first three-year term was certainly challenging, certainly exciting, at times frustrating, but overall, I am proud to say, a period of real progress. The successful two-year contract struggle that drew a line in the sand against further concessionary bargaining and secured more career jobs, job security, and improvements for career and non-career alike. The rank-and-file contract campaign, good service, good jobs, good contract. The Just Stop Staples fight, the building of a grand alliance to save our public postal service, the conversion of over 40,000 postal support employees to career, the series of important negotiated settlements that protect jobs, the coordinated fight against further processing plant closings, the young members stepping it up, the growing cooperation amongst the 4 postal unions, the campaign for postal banking and other expanded services, and the increased APWU membership for the first time in many years are all a testament that the last 3 years have not only been extremely busy, but with tremendous collective efforts from the national to the local to the states to the friends and allies. We are indeed on the march, sisters and brothers. And we march in solidarity with others, walking the picket lines with the Verizon workers and in their victorious strike, mobilizing to get corporate money out of politics, defending the precious right to vote, endorsing the just sentiments of Black Lives Matter and the Standing Rock Tribe, fighting to stop the rotten trade deals like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and actively engaging in the important 2016 national presidential election. And while we can be proud of our new fighting spirit of activism and many advances, we cannot rest. The next 3 years will continue to be intensely challenging because guess what is no surprise to you? The postal privatizers and the anti-union forces never stop and never rest. These are challenging times for all workers and the 99% of us. Unionization rates are at a 100-year low in the United States. Obscene income and wealth inequality is growing by leaps and bounds, with the top 0.1% having the combined wealth of 90% of the world's people. Think about that. More of us are unemployed, despite official government figures, underemployed, losing or lack any real pension plans and affordable health care. We find our water poisoned, and we face galloping and unreachable, out-of-reach costs for higher education. And there is an absence of any real independent political voice for working people. And we are stuck in a corporate and billionaire-dominated politics, and more often than not, face the lesser of two evil choices, a process again playing itself out at our expense in the 2016 presidential election. In this context, our members have chosen their union leadership for the coming 3 years as we face these daunting challenges of protecting our jobs, our retirements, our public postal service, strengthening our union, organizing the unorganized, and rebuilding our labor movement, and engaging in the general fight for justice. Now, many have asked me what I see as some of the main goals over the next 3 years, and I want to give you a quick and pretty brief summary. Of course, it's not everything, and we're building on what is in place and what we've already done, not just with the past administration, but through decades of struggle. First, guided by our national conventions, the highest authority of the American Postal Workers Union, we will begin preparations for the 2018 contract with Postal Management. There's much unfinished work to improve working conditions, to bridge the gaps of the multiple tier wage and benefit systems, and to hold abusive managers accountable. Second, the struggle for postal reform legislation that solves the pre-funding crisis and strengthens the public postal service will continue to be front and center, and we will continue to work to achieve pro-postal USPS Board of Governors and Postal Regulatory Commission, and promote also for the people of this country, vote by mail. Third, we will more vigorously oppose the ever-increasing efforts of UPS and FedEx, along with the think tank proponents of privatization, such as the Cato and Brookings Institutes, to kill the public postal service. Fourth, we'll be working hard and ever harder to expand postal operations and services to include basic financial services and forms of postal banking. Fifth, the APWU will develop broad union education. We do good training on a day-to-day basis, sisters and brothers. It's a valuable mission, and that's a mission that will and must continue. But I envision a broader education program as well. How to empower our members and workers, how to understand and learn from our history and the lessons that apply today. Why is it so important to organize the unorganized inside the Postal Service and outside the Postal Service? And what can we do to accomplish that? How do we really combat privatization? What is privatization? How does our economy work? How do the politics of the country tie into how the economy works? What do we mean by really practicing labor solidarity at home and abroad? And how do we really rebuild our unions? This is especially important. We talked about this today with some of the young workers who are here. This is especially important since 25% of the people that the American Postal Workers Union represent have come into the post office since 2011. And with 53% of us eligible to retire, that process is going to accelerate. And I believe it will do little good to solely focus the efforts of the next generation of postal unionists on the filing of grievances, as important as the grievance process is the day-to-day enforcement of the contract. Sixth, we will bring to fruition a recent settlement to speed up the grievance procedures so that countless workroom floor issues are more timely addressed. Seventh, the Stand Up for Safe Jobs campaign needs to spread to every office, and the maiming of postal workers has got to stop, and the best place to stop it is right on the workroom floor, sisters and brothers. Eighth, we will revive our efforts to organize the unorganized of the largely non-unionized private postal industry, fighting to bring up the living standards of all workers throughout our sector and better protect those of us who are already unionized. We have millions of dollars in the private sector organizing fund, and it will be put to use as it was intended. And lastly, for this list, we will carry out the convention resolution, quote, beyond Bernie, building a movement for economic and social justice. Whatever happens on Tuesday, we will be participating in a powerful and helping to build a powerful movement and advance the political revolution around the just pro-worker issues of the campaign that captured the imagination of so many workers and so many young people in this country. Sisters and brothers, as with my first term, I commit to you again, and I think I speak for the national officers, that we will always be honest with you, listen well, realize that no single person has all the answers, welcome new ideas, and work extremely hard for the common good with elected officers, including national, local, state, union activists, and all of our members. Ultimately, our success and our progress rests with all of us. I have been entrusted with more responsibility, but neither I nor any other elected officer is more important or better than anyone else. Every member, every activist, every leader has an important role to play in this union. So as union leaders and activists, I challenge all of us and all of you to find the ways to evermore empower the members to speak up, to attend union meetings, to join union committees, to write articles, to join the Stand Up for Safe Job campaign, sign petitions, join informational pickets, wherever the fight is. Wear our union gear with pride. Welcome the young workers coming into the post office. Boycott Staples and win this fight. And urge Congress to stop the TPP and TISA and TTIP and whatever alphabet soup of trade deals they come up with that are an attack on workers here and everywhere, and to stand in solidarity with all workers. Before I reach my concluding remarks, I want to share a couple of interrelated recent experiences, call them stories. Last month, I attended a meeting in this city on the prospects of postal banking that included representatives from the U.S. Treasury Department and other interested parties. By the way, it's good. Could be a good thing that some folks in the U.S. Treasury Department have some interest. They had a speaker from the World Bank at this meeting who shared her comments on how postal banking in many countries provides financial services to millions of unbanked people. Many have heard of the World Bank, but few of us, including me, really don't think that much about what it does, or maybe doesn't even know what it does. May read about it in a news story or hear on it on TV. See, under their feel-good mission of reducing poverty in the world, an ugly truth emerges. The World Bank is an entity dominated by Wall Street finance capital to open up new areas for investment and profit. And the World Bank holds poor countries hostage to their dictates in exchange for needed loans. For example, for Sri Lanka to get a loan after the devastating tsunami, I didn't say it right, help me out there. And I have not had a beer tonight or a glass of wine. But in order to get the loan, Sri Lanka had to change and weaken their labor laws to something that was more favorable to the corporations. The World Bank also demands privatization of public assets as another exchange that they make in order for countries to get their loans. So it shouldn't be surprising then that this representative of the World Bank ended her comments with these exact words. Quote, "Postal privatization is a must." She was talking about worldwide postal privatization. In fact, she was talking about China at the time, because there was going to be a public offering as they were pushing the process of privatization. So what this shows is that the privatizers, often without us realizing it, are busy doing their dirty work behind the scenes. And this ties to my next story. I just represented you at the Global Union Post and Logistics International Conference in Dublin, Ireland. Now, if anybody doubts the importance of international solidarity, I simply refer back to the World Bank story. and the privatization agenda of Wall Street and the international banksters. And by the way, as a side comment, that conference of over 150 representatives from unions of postal and logistic unions around the world passed a resolution in support of the boycott of Staples, because Staples is in 26 different countries. But back to my main story. So to learn some of the Irish workers' struggle and the Irish people's struggle, I took a walking tour about the Easter Rebellion. Now, for those who don't know, this is the 100th anniversary of this historic rebellion. And that rebellion was the armed uprising of the Irish people against British imperialism, their version of our revolution of 1776. Among the leaders of this Irish freedom struggle were great trade union leaders, including one James Connolly and Jim Larkin. Now, many of us travel the country, we live in different states and cities. Have you ever seen monuments to working class leaders in this country on these squares and circles in our towns and our squares? I haven't seen them. But guess what I saw in Ireland? On the main street, a main monument of the main street of the main city is a large statue honoring Brother Jim Larkin, who was a socialist dock worker, union organizer, and founder of the Irish Transport Workers Union, a union that played a big role in the Easter Rebellion in 1916. But what I want to share with you today, specifically around this story, was the inscription on Jim Larkin's giant monument on this main square in Dublin. And apparently, Jim Larkin used this quote in some of his well-known and famous speeches in Ireland. And it's attributed to a French revolutionary of the 1970s, during the French Revolution, Camille Desmoulins. And it simply says this, and I want you to listen carefully and think about it. Quote, "The great appear great because we are on our knees. Let us rise." Think about that. The great appear great because we are on our knees, let us rise. And is that not, sisters and brothers, what we do day in and day out to some degree or another when we stand up and fight back? Is that not what our forefathers and foremothers, the courageous postal strikers, did when they stormed the heavens and won the unlawful strike in 1970? So, let us continue to rise. Let us continue to rise and build the grand alliance to save our public postal service and beat back the privatizers. Let us continue to rise and stop Staples and other subcontracting schemes of the Postal Service. Let us continue to rise and defeat the divisive multi-tier wage system and reverse the race to the bottom. Let us continue to rise and win postal banking, a public banking option. Let us continue to rise and organize the postal industry for the Pitney Bowes, the FedExes, and the Amazons of the world can be and must be organized. Let us continue to rise for a safe workplace, and let us rise and win the day against the Koch brothers' big money in politics and break up the too big to fail and too big to jail Wall Street banks who appear so great today. Let us continue to rise against the TPP and these other rotten trade deals, for the multinational corporations can be brought to heel along with their paid-for lobbyists and politician friends. And let us rise and build more schools, not jails, gain peace, not endless wars, achieve health care as a human right, for we can prevail over what appear today to be the great prison, military, and medical industrial complexes. And let us rise and win the just, pro-worker demands of the Sanders campaign, of which we were proudly a part, for $15 an hour living wages, Medicare for all, rebuilding the infrastructure of the country, free college tuition, expanding workers' rights, and addressing the urgent, catastrophic crisis of climate change caused by putting profit over people. Let us rise, for as the labor anthem Solidarity Forever says in another verse, in our hands is placed a power greater than their hoarded gold, greater than the might of armies magnified 1,000-fold. We can bring to birth a new world from the ashes of the old, for the union makes us strong. In typical Jonathan Smith style, my good brother, President of New York Metro, called me with a post-election congratulations and said, saddle up, brother, for another 3 more years of battle. Sisters and brothers, let's saddle up together and let's ride, joining hands, linking arms in a movement of millions for workers' power and workers' justice, and let us rise. And in the words of the inspirational freedom song, commonly known as the African American anthem, lift every voice and sing, sisters and brothers, let us march on till victory is won. Carry on in solidarity forever.